Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brian Smith, and I will be presenting on the topic, the case of Johnson & Johnson versus Sterling Pharmaceuticals of 1991. The case of Johnson & Johnson versus Sterling Pharmaceuticals hinges on one point. Is the use of the term caplet by Sterling Pharmaceuticals being used as a descriptive term to define the product, or are they using it to leverage off the Johnson & Johnson's trademark term? Specifically, Sterling Pharmaceuticals argue that the term is being used purely descriptive and not as a mark. The pivotal term in the case is caplet, which is defined as a coated medical tablet, an uncommon but not unusual term amongst pharmacists. The term itself, although not common in the Australian vernacular, is interpreted as cap being short for capsule and let, the latter part of the word tablet, amalgamating to form the word caplet. The caplet was protected by Johnson & Johnson's and was used to define the coding and structure of some of the oral medications they sold. Johnson & Johnson's had protected the term caplet under the Trademark Act of 1955 and used it as advertising on their Panadol and Panadine product lines. Johnson & Johnson stated that the term caplet was used to define the product and that the term caplet was associated with the brand. The term appears under the title word Panadol and Panadine and is capitalized. Following an incident in the USA where a tablet coating was linked to a death, the caplet was reinvigorated by Johnson & Johnson and started being printed on the side of its Panadol bottles. The bottles had the number of doses in the bottle measured in caplets, i.e. the number of caplets in the bottle. Sterling Pharmaceuticals used the term caplet to promote a product they were selling. The term was, as Sterling Pharmaceuticals defended, being used to describe the medication purely in a descriptive sense, as opposed to definitive, and this forms the basis of the case. Is the term being used in a descriptive sense, or is it definitive, being used as a mark? A trademark is defined under Section 6 of the Trademark Act as a sign used or intended to be used to distinguish goods or services dealt with or provided in the course of trade by a person from goods or services so dealt with or provided by other person. This is where the challenge in the case arises. Sterling Pharmaceuticals argues that the use of the term caplet is not used to associate the medication with the Johnson & Johnson's brand, but rather to link it with a publicly accepted definition of the coding and presentation of the medication itself. It is argued that the term is a common vernacular and would be used to describe not specifically the Johnson & Johnson product, but rather the aforementioned coding and presentation. Caplet might not be a common word amongst ordinary Australians, but this is not by default and deny the term as a definitive word. All in all, it would be assumed that a reasonable person would not immediately associate the term caplet with the Johnson & Johnson's product, but would rather draw the conclusion that a caplet is a term used to describe the medication dose, and thus not a mark, but a descriptive term. Thank you.
Created using Powtune.